Rome, or how the name of the eternal city appeared. Many people wrote about the name of the eternal city, both in ancient times and in modern times. There are many versions and legends too, but all of them were far from the truth. A simple word of 3 ancient sounds remained unread, unheard. There was also a famous story that we know from school that Rome was founded by 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus. Or rather, the elder brother, Romulus, founded it, and he killed the younger one. I think that the absurdity of this version is visible to the naked eye. There were also many compilations of various myths and stories, but all of them have a not-so-long history, as historians constantly argue. In this confusion, I can only rely on my own strength, on my simple and clear understanding of the ancient way of life, which is also simply and clearly explained by the ancient proto-roots, carefully preserved in the Russian language. In Russian, there is an ancient word, rama, frame, with many derivatives. Ramo, humeral, shoulder bone or shoulder. Ramen, spruce or spruce fir forest surrounding the high ground in the form of a frame. Ram-i, and so on. This word can be found in the Explanatory Dictionary of the Russian Language by Vladimir Ivanovich Dahl and Etymological Dictionary of the Russian Language, Max Vassmer. And both Vassmer and Dahl explain this word in exactly the same way. Only Vassmer believes that this word is German, and Dahl writes that the Germans borrowed this word from the Slavs. There are a lot of meanings, from the concept of plecho, shoulder, to a variety of meanings. Buyny, raving, wild. Silny, powerful, strong. Ogromny, huge. Krepki, strong. Dremuchi, dense. Krai, edge. Granitsa, border. It even comes to such meanings as chudo, miracle, and chudovishi, monster. How could it fit into the simple word Rama? To understand this, you just need to remember the lifestyle of those ancient times. Our ancestors in those ancient times were just beginning to engage in agriculture, and they constantly had to win back land plots from nature to plow them, sow grain there, and harvest crops. Everything that prevented, hindered the expansion of this arable land was called the word Rama. You can see how the word Rama, in the meaning prepyatstvia, obstacle, got such a sound. The word consists of 2 proto-roots, an aggressive growling R and the first sound of food ma. I believe that the origins of this word are deeper and go back to the pre-agricultural era. Anything that interfered with getting food caused aggression, when it was impossible to reach the mother's breast or when food was shared in the pack. All this was accompanied by these sounds. How did the word Rama appear in agriculture? This was an insurmountable obstacle. For example, when cutting down and uprooting the forest, there was a huge centuries-old oak that could not be torn out, or a huge stone boulder that could not be removed. These obstacles were left in the middle of the field, bypassing them. The prepyatstvia obstacle was also the dense forests, which did not make sense to go deeper. Too much physical strength was required for it. Such forests were also called Rama. In the dictionary of Vladimir Dahl, this word denotes the border of a small-leaved forest and a dense forest. In fact, everything impassable that surrounded the field and arable land, everything that Ablamlyayu framed it, was called Rama, frame. There are many toponyms, place names, with this ancient basis. For example, everyone knows Moscow-Ramenki, and there is Ramenskoye in the Moscow region. What is the Ramenki or Ramenskoye? This is the wild forest. By the way, Ramenskoye is a very ancient toponym place name. It can be found in the Tale of Bygone Years. Often in toponyms, place names, the word Rama occurs with different vowel sounds. For example, with the vowel E in Remda, or with the vowel O in Romni. There is a place in Finland that has two vowel sounds in its name, Rauma. Proto-root Rama can be found in complex names, the cities of Kostroma or Kramatorsk. In complex names, as a rule, the word Rama is supported by an explanation. In fact, what kind of obstacle arose? Everyone knows the famous musical group Rammstein, named after the city of the same name. In this word, Rama originally means obstacle, and the German word Stein and the English stone have the meaning stone. There are three proto-roots in the word Stein. St is to stand, to be, familiar to us. I is mountain, rock, and the preposition na is on the surface. As a result, we get an insurmountable obstacle. There is a rock on the surface. Now just look at the photo of the town of Rammstein to see this rocky frame and feel the accuracy of naming. Let's go on. Here is the French town of Rambouillet, which also grew up near the Rama obstacle frame. Here, it is interesting to make out part of the word bouillet. What does it mean? The voiced consonant b is a deformed ancient preposition po, and the value ye is the deformed proto-root ya and means down. It is an obstacle at the bottom, in the depth. That is, po ya is either a swamp or a ravine, and Rambouillet is a place where a swamp or ravine is an obstacle. This toponym place name is interesting because the Rama frame can be not only something strong and rocky, but also liquid, viscous. For example, there is the Ramili River in Spain. The same roots, equipped with a soft sound L, mean an obstacle in the form of water. In Lithuania, there is an interesting toponym, place name, with the proto-root Rama, Ramigala. If you remember that the basis of Gala is consonant with Kale, with the meaning of passage, you can easily restore the meaning of the name Ramagala is a passage through an obstacle, most likely through lush, dense forests. Toponyms, place names, with the ancient word Rama are also found in Asia. For example, in India, there is a city called Rampur. Rama is an obstacle and Pur means city. If you look at the photo of the city of Rampur, it immediately becomes clear why it was so named. In India, there is another city with a more understandable name, Ramnagar or Ramangara, literally obstacle on the mountain. And this mountain can also be seen in photographs. In general, the proto-root gr, in the meaning of the mountain is preserved in many languages of the world. In the same Japanese name, Odaigahara. In Indian, Ramanagar, Gara is mountain. If we look in Hebrew, we will also find the word mountain in the same meaning and in the same sound. There is another terrible secret. The ancient Indian king, the hero of the Ramayana, Rama, also got his name from the semantic basis of an insurmountable obstacle. He is as strong as an oak tree that stands in the middle of a field. It is as unshakable as a rock. He is as handsome and curly as a dense forest. Toponyms, place names with the proto-root Rama, are also found in biblical culture. Here, it is easier to look at the encyclopedia of Brockhaus and Ephron, where the meaning of the Hebrew word Rama is described very well. In Hebrew, Rama is any height, elevation overgrown with forests or shrubs. These hills enclosed fields and pastures and served as an obstacle to the dry land. The most famous biblical place name is Ramah, where the judge Samuel lived. The Bible describes the Age of Judges, a period when tribes were at war with each other and the judges were sorting out who was right and who was wrong. Judge Samuel reconciled everyone and brought a very strict ideological platform under this coexistence. Now, on the place of that ancient Ramah is the modern city of Ramallah, or rather, Ramallah, woven from the roots of Rama, Allah, and Ach. Finally, there are toponyms, place names with the ancient basis Rama in Italy, the town of Rimini, or the famous San Remo, or the city of Parma, famous for Stendhal. By the way, Parma sounds like that is, along the Prepyatствia Rama, or along the frame, along the obstacle. And these majestic obstacles are easy to see in the suburbs of Parma. There is a similar toponym place name Parma in the north of Russia. And if we compare it with the name of the city of Perm, we get a single root sound. What was the obstacle in Perm? It is high, wooded banks of the Kama River, along which Perm stretches. Now that many things are agreed, it's time to move on to Rome, the city on the 7 hills. Each hill has its own name, but the toponym, place name, Rome, unites all 7 hills. Actually, the hills gave rise to the naming of the place. Rome is located between the Tyrrhenian Sea and the Apennines. This area is of volcanic origin and consists of porous tuff. For thousands of years, as the water flowed from the mountains into the Tyrrhenian Sea, it washed deep valleys almost to the level of the Tiber River. These valleys are divided by the famous hills. Why didn't the hills wash away? It's hard to say. Perhaps it was the fact that they were made of hard rock. In ancient times, the tops of hills were constantly rising relative to valleys, becoming higher and higher, reaching 40 meters, as if they were getting under the roof of a modern 15-story building. These hills had one peculiarity. Since the valleys were constantly flooded by water, the edges of the hills were washed away, which made them steep, abrupt, almost vertical. These steep banks closely resembled the current steep banks of Russian rivers, the Volga River or the Kama River. In pictures of ancient Rome, you can see that the hills resembled cones sticking out of the ground, and the tops of these cones were covered with vegetation, forest. For some reason, they reminded me of Orthodox cakes with wigs on them. By the way, the Latin language preserved the word rami, branches. It is the sight of these hills sticking out of the ground and serving as a kind of obstacle to life in the valleys that gave the name Rama. What vowel was in this basis initially? It is difficult to establish now. Perhaps there was no vowel at all, as, for example, in the words Parma or Perm. Or maybe it was the vowel O, Roma. In Slavic languages, the name came from the Greek Romi and settled with the vowel E, Rim. Now Rome has changed despite its eternity. The valleys are elevated and the edges of the hills are not so steep as in ancient times. But the name of the city was given precisely for the signs as it was perceived by the ancient man.